Hockey Town, it's a place where dreams are found. We fought so many battles here, now we're the ones that they will fear. The cup resides within our town, we won't stop no letting down. The cup is ours, we're all to drink. It's our time, let's rock this ring.
Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockey Town Rundown. You are here with us, your beautiful hosts, once again, Zack and Derek. Derek, happy beautiful Sunday. How's your weekend so far, buddy? Long time no see.
I know, it's been like a whole, 12 hours now? I'd say my weekend has been okay. It could have been a lot better yesterday, but I guess
What
a
happened?
hurricane. No, I mean a hurricane or something. Big storms tell Pittsburgh they can't fly anywhere, and I guess we just can't watch hockey. Even though I drove 2.5 hours to watch hockey, but that's cool.
Yeah. So for reference, Derek, myself, and a couple of our friends met up in downtown Detroit, attempting to go to the Detroit Red Wings versus Pittsburgh Penguins game, which was scheduled for 7 p.m. We got there around 4:30-ish. Just wanted to be degenerates for a little bit, go to the casino. And within the first probably 20 minutes that we were there, got the notification that the game got pushed back to 8:30. Then probably around 7 o'clock, Derek, I think we found out that the game was overall postponed. And we had one of our good friends also trying to meet us up at the casino to go to the game. It's very sad that we did not get to go to the game, Derek. And that is one example why we should always wait to purchase our tickets at the last minute before the game starts. But yeah, very unfortunate as to what happened. I don't believe, looking back, Derek, I don't think it was caused due to the hurricane. I think they just had overall issues with their plane that they could not fix. But yes, so unfortunately, Derek did spend 2.5 hours driving to Detroit to not go to the game, unfortunately. So I'm so sorry about that, buddy. That really is unfortunate. But the good news is that we get to see two games on Monday, because the game did get moved to Monday at 7 p.m. against the Pittsburgh Penguins, all while the Detroit Red Wings were already scheduled to play against the Buffalo Sabres Monday night at 7 p.m., which kind of sucks because the Detroit Lions play that night too, but we at least get to watch some Detroit Red Wings hockey before the Lions game comes on. So yeah, how do you feel about that, Derek? Two games in one night, assuming that they're still right. They're going to play against Pittsburgh at home, and then they're going to ship off half of the other players to Buffalo to play there.
I mean, it's a great time to have a split screen TV. You can just watch both games because they both start at the same time. So you're not really missing much. And hell, if you really fancy and you get the 3-way TV, man, you got 3 sports going on at once. 2 hockey games, football. I mean, if I didn't work, I would be in heaven. I might still be calling off tomorrow. I don't know yet. Don't say anything, Brandon. I know you're watching this. If I'm not there tomorrow, just go with it.
You know why, Brandon. I don't know you, but you know why. That's so funny. Yeah, we're going to try and figure out to see if we're still going to go to that game. We had questions we were going to ask some fans going to that game. We were all prepared, and then, life just happens, but we'll figure it out one way or another. But
the main reason we went there was to interview people too, and weirdly enough, most of the people were just depressed at the casino after 7 o'clock, so I don't think anyone really wanted to talk to us.
No, yeah, there were a lot of disappointed Red Wings fans there. We saw a lot of people wearing Detroit gear in general, and MGM parking lot was completely packed. I pretty much had to go to the 4th floor just to find a spot and had to fight someone over it. Not really, but yeah, Derek was able to get on the 2nd floor. Lucky guy. He was actually quicker than I was getting there. But Derek, let's go ahead and take a moment and say thank you to those that are returning to this brand new episode. If you are brand new, thanks for stopping by. We really do appreciate it. Why don't you both, whether if you're new or returning, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit that thumbs up as well. You guys are doing a really good job actually getting this over 20 likes, so I'm going to up the ante a little bit. Let's continue the trend. Let's get this over 30 likes. I know you guys can do that. Also, do the exact same thing on Apple and Spotify podcasts, where you can hit that follow button. You can rate us the 5 stars. All that stuff really does go a long way for us. So thank you once again for all the love and support that you guys have shown us over this time. Once again, definitely appreciated. And with that, Derek, let's go ahead and jump into it because hockey is back. The Detroit Red Wings officially have started their preseason games, and they started off with playing I almost said Detroit Blackhawks, the Chicago Blackhawks and Connor Bedard on Wednesday night. And the Red Wings ended up winning that game 4-2. It was a pretty exciting game, not going to lie. I mean, you had some of the regular players. You had the top line of being Larkin, DeBrincat, Raymond, so the usual, and then you got to see some other young players in there too. But kind of going down the list as to recapping what happened in that game, in order for the Red Wings to get the first goal in that game, which they did, Gustafsson keeps the puck from crossing the blue line, which was fantastic effort from him. Overall, I like seeing him put in that extra effort to keep it in and keep the play alive, who then gets it to Veleno. Veleno gets it to Watson, who makes a mean pass essentially across the goalie, across the whole entire ice to get it to Tyler Mott, who puts it in backdoor to make it 1-0. Derek, were you what was the most impressive part of that whole entire play? Do you believe that it was the Austin Watson pass to set up the goal, or did Tyler Mott just do a really good job at getting that puck into the back of the net, in your opinion?
I mean, that was a conglomeration of both of them just doing their jobs exceptionally well. Let me tell you, the first time I saw that goal go in and I saw Tyler Mott's name pop up on the app, by the way, if you're like me and you have to work all day long and you can't watch the games, get the Red Wing app. They give you great updates. But when I saw his name pop up, I was like, oh my God, is Carlo already right so far this season with his 2.5 goals on the shorty? Because I thought Tyler Mott got a shorty right there. I'm like, where else do we hear his name half the time? But 5-on-5, solid passing, solid goal. Both of them did great. I can't say one did better than the other because, I mean, the puck went in the net. So I'm pretty happy with the outcome of this.
Yeah, you honestly can't be upset. And I was very pleased with the way that Tyler Mott was able to finish that. And then I was very impressed by the way that Austin Watson played that game, and very impressed by Gustafsson nonetheless. And for Veleno, just doing what exactly he knows what to do, right? Just play his role and be able to facilitate the puck a little bit. So overall, great play. I loved seeing it. Number 79 on the Hawks hits Raymond. This was an overall great play. I love seeing how chippy the boys were getting early on in preseason. Larkin then gets him back with a high hit with the scrum then ensuing. Yeah, once again, just glad to see the boys getting chippy early in this preseason action. Are you kind of surprised that they're already getting underneath their opponent's skin, or at least protecting themselves and their teammates this early in preseason, Derek?
I mean, you got to set the tone at some point, and the Red Wings did not have that tone last year, the year before. I don't know when the last time we had a tone that we could set that actually either scared, got under people's skin, frustrated people, because the Red Wings haven't been that for a while. And if they're starting it early, I mean, I like the fact that the captain's starting it off. It's like, okay, follow suit, everybody. Do the same exact thing. Get it under each other's skin. We saw how well it works for Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They're all around good team, but at the same time, they're the best at getting under someone's skin and pissing people off. And it helps out. I think that hit might have drawn a penalty on Larkin, though, at that time. But, we'll ignore that, too. It still works.
Yeah, it still works. I agree with you. Then you move on into the second period where the Hawks tie it 1-1, and I'm just going to call him out. This isn't hate towards Erik Gustafsson, but Gustafsson just played bad defense there for Ville Husso, where Husso, he didn't make the save. I believe it rang off the post or the crossbar, and then the player who scored was able to get that rebound. But overall, just Gustafsson, it looked like that he was being lackadaisical out there. Maybe he lost the puck after that first shot, but overall, I didn't like the way that he played defense there. So that's my constructive criticism to him in my first view of watching him play. And I know that goes against what I said earlier because he did make that really nice play in the offensive zone. But yeah, then Husso gives up an easy one to make it 2-1 Hawks. From there, I was like, oh boy, is this really the same Ville Husso that we're going to get as we've seen last season and even in stints of the previous season where he didn't really put up the greatest numbers. So that's my one takeaway from that. What do you think, Derek? Do you think Huso can actually come back to Billy Huso prime, or do you think that we're kind of in this situation where it's going to be the same song and dance?
Well, I'll save that for my hot take later because I kind
Ooh.
of digs into that a little bit. But I mean, I'm not going to give him any crap for that first one. Obviously, it wasn't great defense. He probably shouldn't have given it. Looked kind of like he gave up on the play after the first shot. He probably thought it went in already. But it really just bounced right back to the same guy who shot the puck again and just went right past him because he wasn't ready for it again. But so I'm really just going to say like 1-ish, go 1.5 from this time he was playing. But I'm hoping for the best on this point, you know. I don't want to talk anything down at him. He was rough last season, so maybe this season he's coming back healthy and he just has to get back into playing form. Maybe.
And that's what we want, right? Like, we don't want his downfall, right? We want every player to succeed here. We want all of our goalies to get a 925 save percentage, right? We want all of our players to score 90 plus points if they can, but you got to be realistic, right? And so, yeah, Billy Huso, to me, at least on my end, in my personal opinion, I think he's on, or I should say like this, under the microscope, right? He's just on a tight leash. I think he's under, just really hard watch from upper management and even the coaching staff to make sure that they're not, I guess, overplaying him. I guess is the way that I can say it. I just want to make sure that we're not setting him up for failure and potential to get injured again. So anything you can do to get him in the correct mental space and just come back better than ever, that's what I'm hoping for. Moving along, though, Raymond almost gets a shorty, and Casper looks really good. He actually looks faster than what he's had and or shown us in the past. And I was talking to one of our buddies, George, about it, and he made a really good point that I think a lot of fans tend to forget, and maybe they don't. I can't speak for everyone, but that's a kid who had a broken kneecap. I mean, how difficult is it to come back from that and be able to get back to your in-game speed, right? I mean, Marco Casper had a rough first half of the season last year after going through that injury, right? So, Derek, maybe you can kind of speak on it, but is that something that's going to take someone like Marco Casper time to be able to find his speed again due to that injury? So, is that why we're now seeing him faster than ever?
I mean, if we go off last season alone, obviously the beginning of the season wasn't his best, and you can easily talk that up to being a broken kneecap in the one NHL game he played with us last year. Literally broke his kneecap that game. And kept playing, though. Like, he didn't do it at the end. He did it, like, right in the middle of the game and kept playing through that game because, obviously, it's his first NHL game. Who wants to stop playing? This is a broken kneecap. You'll be okay. After, 6 months of rehabilitation, which would lead into the next season where he was already playing right away. So, if anyone was down on him at that point, I understand. But at the same time, you got to realize the poor boy was literally crippling around on one leg, basically, for the first half of the season. And we saw him ramp it up at the end of last season, and now we're seeing him after a full, healthy offseason into the preseason. I feel like we could see some great things coming from him coming up here. He might be one of the sides of, I don't know, Danielson, Casper, Mazur, one of those guys, man. They got to make the push this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say Casper's doing a really good job at doing that out of the three personally for me. But moving along here, PD with an absolute piss missile to make it 2-2, thanks to the efforts of Mazur keeping the play alive, diving to get the puck to him. So speaking of Carter Mazur, you brought him up. Yeah, I thought that was really great effort. And then Jeff Petrie just doing his thing, putting pucks in the back of the net. We don't really get to see too many of those, but he is someone who does have that offensive ability. So that was really great to see. Hopefully he kind of has, I don't want to call it a bounce back season, but I definitely think being in his second season under Lalonde's scheme, he's going to be a lot better than I think we actually realize. But he's getting older. He's now a year older too, right? Compared to when we got him last season. So we're going to have to wait and see there. Then you got Lucas Raymond gets top cheese power play goal to make it 3-2. Alex DeBrincat and Larkin get the assists in the third period. And then I will at least say Gus Bus loves to rough up the ops even after the whistle. So is this someone that Steve Yzerman potentially went out to get, not only for offensive capabilities on the back end, but to also get underneath the opponent's skin, like we talked about earlier, Derek? Do you see that being a possibility?
I mean, with Guzman out there, hopefully it's more so just on the defensive end, we're getting a little bit more help. But, defensive end means having that guy who can rough people up too. That's part of defensive play. And if that's the case with him, I like it a lot because, again, we need it. We just discussed it.
I like it. I like it a lot. I will agree with you, Derek. And then last but not least, Ole Mata rips one top corner to make it 4-2. So overall, great effort by the Red Wings. They had 29 shots on goal compared to Chicago's 27. And then the point getters for this game were Tyler Mott, Lucas Raymond, Austin Watson, Carter Mazer, Emmett Finney, Dylan Larkin, Joe Veleno, Marco Casper, Alex DeBrincat, Ole Mata, Jeff Petrie, and Eric Gustafsson. And then the two goalies that were in this game were Ville Husso, like we mentioned. And we didn't talk about Kosa, who actually shut out the whole entire third period. He looked really good. There was a play actually that Hockey Town West podcast posted on Twitter. If you guys don't know about them, go ahead and give them a follow on Twitter. You can subscribe to them on any platform essentially, but they do a lot of good work for Grand Rapids Griffins and the Toledo Walleye. But yeah, they showed this clip where Kosa makes an incredible save against Connor Bedard. Derek, it's going to be really fun hearing that more often in the near future. Would you agree with me on that? Kosa makes a save on Connor Bedard.
Oh, I'm hoping to hear that on McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Sidney Crosby, McKinnon. I'm just waiting for the day. I am the biggest Kosa supporter that anyone could be, and I just want him on the team now. I know that's not going to happen right away because of the log jam of goalies we have, but God, I can't wait. I just need his jersey. Travis, I need his jersey right now. Where's your guy?
Yeah, Travis, we need you, buddy. And talking about this game, I know that there were some talks amongst fans that they were nervous about some of the younger guys playing in the bottom six. I know Mazer was one of them, that you wanted to see some of these kids get more of an opportunity, and that playing them in a bottom six role probably wasn't the greatest. However, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. I mean, Carter Mazer, he played 15 and a half minutes. He had 19 shifts. Even someone like Emmett Finney played 12 minutes. Then you got Amadeus Lombardi, almost 14 minutes. Soderblom got 15. Casper got 6, almost 17. And then you look at players like Johansson. I would say he's the one who got the short end of the stick. He only got to play for 14 minutes. But then you look at Simon Edvinsson, who played 22 and a half minutes that game as the top pair defenseman. And that kind of ties into one of my hot takes that we're going to talk about. Obviously, it's down below there. That's the main topic for this episode that we'll be going into. But all around, great effort from the boys. Yeah, Ville Husso made 15 out of 17 saves, and then Kosa saved all of his 10 shots on net. So good job by the Detroit Red Wings. And then we'll actually move it along to the next game, which was Friday night. Mind you, we are recording 9/29. It is 12 p.m., 11:58. But yeah, 12 p.m. essentially. But the Red Wings do play against the Chicago Blackhawks again. The first preseason game at home, where you do have Moritz Seider wearing the A, which was super fantastic. Derek, I don't know if you want to speak on that real quick, but does that kind of give us an indication that we could see Mo Seider having the A on his jersey moving forward, going into the regular season?
I mean, I feel like at this point, after that nice contract extension, he's probably one of the most deserving of it at this point. We obviously, trying to speak again on Sunday. We're obviously already know, we know he's going to be on the team forever. He's going to be our number one defensive player. And you might as well know that he's probably the leader, giving some leadership out there now too, just because of what he can do. So it just seems like it's going to be the perfect fit for him at this point. Even Raymond behind you, I'm waiting to see something like that happen. Obviously, I feel like we have a few other people that might push Raymond down, but Seider, I feel like that has to happen this season at this point. It's a sign for things to come for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say just because he got the contract, he deserves the A at that point, but just listening to him and the way he speaks, and obviously just his on-ice product, if it's not this season, he's going to get an A eventually. I could make the argument that when Dylan Larkin is no longer in the NHL, I could see Moritz Seider getting a C. That's just how poised and just how calm, cool, collect of a overall person, not even just a player, just an overall person that he is. And I think that he's loved amongst the team. I think everyone loves Moritz Seider. I would be shocked if there was a shred of hate for that man. I mean, look at him. I know you can't see my hand or anything, but look at him. He's awesome. Like, he's definitely someone I think could be deserving of not just the A, but the C at some point. And that's no disrespect to Larkin. Like I mentioned, that would come obviously after Larkin's departure from the NHL as a whole, because we all believe that Dylan Larkin will be a career Detroit Red Wing, which is super awesome. And that's always been his lifelong goal. So, but moving along into this game, the Red Wings app played some funky tunes during the first period. Did you enjoy him as much as I did, Derek? I know a lot of people were not happy about it whatsoever, but I was just vibing out. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. It was different. It was a different vibe than expected, but what'd you think about it?
I didn't even care for it at all. I got so annoyed after the first 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, you could at least change what we're listening to and not just keep the same stuff going over and over. That'd be cool. Like, I get they had audio issues, but I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, it was brutal, not going to lie, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. It was pretty cool. They at least used 3 different songs, not the same one over and over again. So that helped out a little bit. I know. I know. I'm the one weird guy. I know. But because of that too, it actually kind of helped everyone that was watching, because almost next to nothing happened in the first period. Maybe if I had play-by-play, maybe I would have noticed a little bit more because of the music. It was a little hard to focus more on there, but no goals in the first period. But then you go into the second period and they finally get the play-by-play figured out. Christian Fischer gets the Wings on the board and that's a nice pass from Seider to Kopp. I wrote this note really weird, so I do apologize. But yeah, Seider and Kopp get the assist on that goal from Christian Fischer, so that's super nice. Then Tarasenko makes it 2-0 on the 2-man advantage. I do believe as soon as he scored, or maybe a little bit before, one of the penalties ended, so it was technically a man advantage, a one-man advantage, because the whole entire power play ended after that. But yeah, nice movement all around by the Wings to keep it in the zone. They were just dishing the puck back and forth, and I know there were a couple plays broken up or maybe like one mishap pass in there, but overall, the Red Wings did a fantastic job at keeping the puck in the zone. Granted, 5-on-3, it should be easy to do that, right? But we've seen it multiple times in the NHL, not just the Red Wings, but other teams in general, not able to get the puck in the net when it's 5-on-3. So, but with that, the Wings win 2-0 in a slow game, but it was an easy victory. Vladimir Tarasenko did get the first star in that game. Christian Fischer, I know I didn't speak on this on the last game, but Lucas Raymond got the first star last game. Christian Fischer got the second, and then Andrew Kopp got the third with 2 assists. And then let's go ahead and just look at some of the stats. Yeah, Chicago had 22 shots on net. Red Wings had 31. Red Wings were dominating this game overall. I did see at one point the Red Wings, the first period, it was 10-7 shots. And then in the second period, that's where the Red Wings kind of boomed, where they had 14-6 shots compared to the Chicago Blackhawks. So just overly dominated. And then just looking at, the time that some of these players played, Tarasenko got 15 minutes. Snively, someone who's pegged to be in Grand Rapids, he almost got 18 minutes and 19 shifts. That's pretty big. And then Nate Danielson, I noticed that he was being deployed in the defensive zone, taking some faceoffs there. I didn't fully count every single one of them, but it looked like he was doing a pretty good job down in the defensive end when he needed to facilitate that role to make sure that they could clear the puck out of their zone. So good looks on him. Let's see here. He was 46% on the faceoffs. Andrew Kopp was 60 or 80%. Lombardi, I'm not sure how many he did, but he got 60%, and then JT Compher had a 77% face-off win. Jan Tim Berggren played 18 minutes. That's probably the most minutes that he's ever played in a Red Wings game, regardless if it's preseason or not. So that's great to see that he's actually getting time out there. Ben Sherratt got to play 21 minutes on 25 shifts. Antetokounmpo looks really good out there. He's a big boy. I think a lot of fans should be pleased with his overall play, especially with the way that he was maneuvered in his path to making it to Grand Rapids. So good looks on him. He got almost 19 minutes. Sider played 21 and a half minutes. And then Wallander almost 18 minutes. And then I was kind of surprised like this, but someone like Lagesson got to play more than William Wallander did. And then Emil Vero got to play 15 minutes as well. But also going to the goaltenders, Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot both shut out in their stints in this game. Alex Lyon got to play 2 of the periods, I believe, and then Cam Talbot came in for the 3rd. And that was the player that I really wanted to watch the most, Derek, actually, out of this whole entire team, was how good Cam Talbot was going to be. He looked all right, I guess. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but obviously it's preseason, and then starting in the 3rd. It's got to be tough for a goalie, right? You've been sitting for 2 periods, but I know they at least get the option for a little warm-up beforehand. So takeaways from this game real quick, Derek. Let me catch a breather real quick.
Well, they said, Zach, you're going on there for a minute there. I was like, it's okay. I didn't get to watch the game, so I got all the highlights. But from what I got to watch, I was pretty happy with what the defense were doing out there, more so than anybody else. Obviously, that second period, fantastic, great production, because the production was not there in the first period at all. Pretty sure Chicago outshot us in the first. And then we just come back around, dominate the second, which ended up being the entire rest of the game. And everything else was just built around the defense and the goalies. So that was really nice to see all those young guys getting a lot of time out there, Line and Cam. I know Cam, obviously, like Zach said, came in after 2 periods. He's cold a little bit. He's not going to look the greatest out there. But at the same time, you know who he looked a lot better than? James Reimer. I'll say it right now. Let me tell you, he looked a lot better than Reimer did out in that. He actually is movable. He can go back and forth. He doesn't literally fly around like a fish. I'm like, okay, Cam might be a little bit older, but he is a skilled goalie, and we've known that for a long time. So I'm okay with what he did not last night. I wish it was last night because I could have watched something on Friday night. But Line looks pretty damn good out there. He's looking like the beginning of last season for us, basically. Going around it, snagging on those shots, blocking everything. I like to see that. But again, I was more surprised by how the defense did. They did great. A bunch of young guys, a bunch of AHL players basically running the whole entire defense. And no pucks win the net. 21 shots only. I'd say that was a pretty decent game. Kind of boring, obviously, but a win's a win.
Win is a win, buddy. Yeah, regardless of the score. Well, even if it was 2-1, probably would have still be saying the same exact thing, right? A win is a win. Still would have been a pretty boring game, but I'll agree with you. The overall defense showed up this game, and so did goaltending when it counted and when it mattered. Every shot counts. Every shot matters. So the fact that the goaltending stood strong and the defense also stood strong, that's great. That's fantastic. It's exactly what we wanted to see and continue to see as we move along in the preseason games. And with that, Derek, we can now officially jump into, as it shows below, the rundown Red Wings hot takes for this season. And we'll let the fans decide how hot these takes are. I know when we did this last year, we went pretty balls to the wall with them. We made some pretty egregious takes, I would say is the correct term I probably want to use there. I think we were saying something like, is there a possibility Dylan Larkin could get 100-point season, stuff like that. All those could be possible this season as well, but we don't really have any super spicy takes like that. So Derek, but with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. And I'm going to start with yours actually first, and it'll tie into my first one. Derek, this is your first hot take, is the Wings will secure a playoff spot and not from being in a wild card spot. Go in depth about that a little bit.
I mean, I'm just hoping that this team has another year under its belt with a lot of the same guys. Everything's just going to move a lot more smoothly. We see some falling down from teams around us. Obviously, we see Boston, that Swayman thing. That's going to be a little bit of a headache for them. We see, obviously, Toronto's going to be just Toronto. Again, they'll probably blow out the preseason, the regular season, and then blow it up in the postseason again, like always. So I don't even care about them. And I just think it's that time for them to shine finally. They finally got a somewhat of a core group of players that can actually produce, maybe a little bit older. But I think it's the year that we start making that push. That's going to be obviously probably not what anyone thinks, but I'm thinking high 90s this year. So I feel like that's going to push us into a third spot and not even a wild card. So lukewarm take, I would say.
And that pretty much follows along with when we did the Eastern Conference standings, right? You're kind of following suit with how I looked at it from that perspective, that I put the Red Wings being third in the Atlantic Division. I think the Red Wings core, like you mentioned, is pretty solid. And I think it just takes the Red Wings to get hot at the start of the season and somehow try to continue that momentum. Obviously, when I say start hot in the beginning of the season, you got to go on a streak. And you got to be able to maintain it to where even if you're winning games by 1 goal, a win is a win. We just said that, right? So I'm right there with you that is a possibility. But with my hot take, Derek, is that the Wings will pick
the other side.
Yeah, the Wings are going to pick top 10 in the NHL draft next year in the 2025 NHL draft. So essentially my hot take here is that the Red Wings are going to get hit with the injury bug. I'm sure plenty of other people are saying the exact same thing. Look, we still haven't seen Larkin get over 82 points in a season. When was the last time Dylan Larkin even played a full 82 game season, right? And not only him, the Red Wings were very, very fortunate to not be hit with the injury bug last season. That eventually starts catching up to teams, right? So for me, all it takes is, let's say Dylan Larkin gets injured, and then someone like Seider, Edvinsson, one of those two guys. We mention all the time how the defense isn't the sexiest on the Detroit Red Wings team. And all it would take is someone like Moritz Seider to get injured. Then you look at the goalies too. Alex Lyon, yeah, he could play, 5 straight games. Do you want that? More than likely not. You got Ville Husso, who's very unknown at this point. I think a lot of people could agree on that we just don't know what we're going to get out of him this season. And then Cam Talbot, he's old. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong this season. Call me a pessimist all you want, but this is my take. I think the Red Wings somehow fall this year. A lot of things are going to be flipped around. And I believe that the Red Wings are going to pick top 10 in this year's draft due to injury, not because of play, but because they're going to have key players injured this year. Moritz Seider's never been injured before. This will be Simon Edvinsson's first full season with the Detroit Red Wings. It's going to come down to health. How healthy can these players stay, right? Our center depth isn't exactly the greatest, and we saw that last year too. So can the wingers take the next step? Can Patrick Kane facilitate being a number 1 guy if Dylan Larkin gets injured again? There's a lot of unknowns there, but that's my hot take as to why I believe the Red Wings could be in a situation where they pick top 10 in the NHL draft for 2025. And with that, I mean, I just kind of spoke on Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider, but this goes on to my next hot take is Simon Edvinsson will play more with Seider than he will Jeff Petrie this season. So basically what I'm saying is we're going to see Moritz Seider and Simon Edvinsson paired on the top line more so than we see Simon Edvinsson paired on that second pairing. And I believe that's because it's going to come down to Sherratt, and it's actually going to come down to Petrie. I don't think Sherratt is going to be able to handle playing the top line role. I don't believe that Jeff Petrie is going to be able to maintain the second pairing role either. And that kind of, makes you guys probably like, well, how come you're going to put Sherratt and Petrie together on that second pairing? And it's like, well, you don't have to, but I think that there's going to be a mix and match here. But I do firmly believe that Simon Edvinsson will be playing majority of his time, his first season in the NHL with the Detroit Red Wings paired with Moritz Seider. Do you have anything that you want to say on that, Derek? Do you agree or disagree with me on that?
I mean, I think that's the hope of most Red Wings fans right now is that we see Ed up there with Seider at this point. Obviously, it's his first season, so it definitely could go back and forth. Hopefully, Petrie doesn't take a massive downfall where it actually hinders Edvinsson's advancements in his career right now, especially in his first year. But Honestly, I could see it happening at this point. Hopefully, it's not due to Petrie and Edmondson just not working out or Sherrod blowing a tire on the first line. Hopefully, it's just Ed just busting the doors down his first year, showing that he belongs. Well, technically not his first year, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I agree with it. I can see it happening. I like that lukewarm take.
Yeah, it's not like a spicy hot take, right? It's very lukewarm, kind of like how you mentioned. So, and Derek, why don't you go ahead and say your second hot take for us, buddy?
Well, actually, the next two kind of go off your first hot take and would actually hinder my first hot take pretty aggressively if this was to happen, because most of these would only happen if a lot of people start getting injured. But my hot take right now is Ammo gets that call up before December. I've been watching his production throughout the year, in the offseason, in the preseason, and what he's been playing in his production. He's showing me that he really can be that one guy that we can call up and rely on, it seems to be. I'm just hoping at this point he just blows the doors out of GR this season. And by December, the Red Wings are looking at him like, it's a mistake not to call him up at that point. Injury aside, like maybe you just need that 1C up or the 4C up there to replace Veleno for a day. Maybe Veleno gets injured. You never know. Obviously, most people might say that's going to be Danielson's position, but we'll see what happens in the regular season in the first couple months for the AHL, because you never know. I just can't not see a way for Lombardi making a way up. Obviously, there's a lot of things that will hinder that. That's why I said it's kind of following Zach's first 1 year with a lot of injuries, and it would just destroy my hopes of not being a wild card spot this year. But there is a possibility. Nice little warmer take there, I would say.
Yeah, and that kind of goes against, I guess, my next hot take, where not really, but I'm saying Marco Kasper is the first call up this season. So maybe Ammo will be the second. You said yours would be in December, but I do believe that Marco Kasper would be the first call up based on what we've seen so far out of him, not just in preseason, but in training camp as well. He just looks super fast out there. He's definitely got the skill. He's making the moves out there, right? So he's someone who can get underneath the opponent's skin too, right? He's not afraid to get in the face of the ops and get underneath their skin. And you can call him up, whether if that's for center or for the wing. I think that it would be more suitable for him to play on the wing than it would be for him to come in as like a 4C spot or even 3C. But I don't want the Red Wings to call him up to fill a fourth line spot. I would prefer that it be on the third line, so that way he gets a little more action in that regard. And then I believe that you either have to put him on the PK or you would have to put him in a power play situation, more than likely probably on the PK. So that's probably why he would be more suitable for a third or a fourth line role, because of the PK situation. But yeah, I think Marco Kasper would be the first call up, even before someone like Carter Mazer, Nate Danielson, and some of the other named players, like even someone like Amadeus Lombardi. So is that a spicy take for you, Derek, or do you kind of believe that that's the first person on the list to get a call up if an injury does occur on the Detroit Red Wings?
Honestly, I do think it probably will be the first one. Danielson close second, got Mazer down there, and then I'm hoping Ammo, because then my hot take sounds a little bit better at that point, but you never really know at this point. But he seems to be the most seasoned guy that we have right now, the most experience actually playing. So it would make the most sense for him to be coming up first.
I mean, Ammo can definitely make that jump, right? I mean, he's got to have that really good start in Grand Rapids, right? So he definitely could make the jump up the totem pole, and he could be first in line, right? A lot comes down to it, right? But right now, I guess overall, I would agree with you that he's a little bit lower down the list, but glad to see we both agree on that. I guess my take wasn't really too spicy, but let us know down in the comments what you guys think if Marco Kasper would be the first player called up on the forward end to play on the Detroit Red Wings if an injury occurred. And Derek, why don't you go ahead and go into your next hot take, buddy?
Okay, this one's a little bit spicier than what most people probably think that happened this year. I'm going to call that Kosa plays at least 5 games in the NHL. And I'll go into why, because there's a lot that I put in here. First off, In the first 30 games, I'm expecting him to have at least an average of a .93 save percentage. Blowing the doors off the water, Grand Rapids Griffins are just destroying the competition this year. Not on the front panel alone, goals aren't going in. And then we have Husso, who is being Husso again this year. Not hoping that this happens. This is just a hot take that could possibly, maybe not happen, could happen. I don't know. Husso injured all year again. Something goes terribly wrong. He blows out another kneecap, and he just physically can't do it with us. We got Cam, who just gets a little too old, goes on a cold streak, not able to produce. And then we have Line, who does exactly what he did last year. Great for like 35, maybe 40 games at the most, which is unfortunate because after that, that's when we start seeing him fall off. And then when the Red Wings are going to notice after like a 5-game, 6-game losing streak of our goalies just not being able to produce, well, guess who we got down in the AHL? A .93 save percentage goalie who's just destroying it. Might as well give him a couple looks. There you go.
To me personally, I don't believe that we will get any opportunities to see Kosa, but I really like the way you explained it, Derek, and I do believe that there could be an opportunity for him, especially it's just the way that you said it, right? I mean, Husso is very unknown, and it goes with everything that I mentioned too, right? So is there an opportunity? Sure, but it would have to come down to injuries. To me personally, I think the overall goal for the Red Wings organization that they want Grand Rapids to have just as successful, if not better, season than the Detroit Red Wings. I really do believe, and I'm just going to say it. This would be my next hot take is that Grand Rapids Griffins will make the Calder Finals this year. I firmly believe that if the Red Wings don't get the injury bug, like I already claimed, the Grand Rapids Griffins are poised to make a deep playoff run this upcoming season. And with that, Derek, that would be why I disagree with you, is because they probably want Kosa to stay in there and just marinate more over time. But there's nothing wrong with him going and playing those 5 games that you mentioned with the Detroit Red Wings. And then once the season ends, he's obviously going to go back to Grand Rapids Griffins. So I hope your take is right. I actually hope we do get to see some stints of him, because it would be very difficult to just take him from Grand Rapids and insert him into Detroit's lineup for the 25-26 season without any NHL experience and claiming him as the backup. Do you agree with me on that? Or should we not look at it that way and just and he should be prepared for that outcome to happen?
I mean, it's a scary outcome if it's real. I'm going to go back and say, I really hope what I said doesn't really happen, because Jesus Christ, what a domino effect of our goalies all just taking a shit at the same time. Like, Jesus Christ, you have 3 goalies and they all do this to the point where we have to bring up our AHL goalie. Again, one of the best AHL goalies in the United States, one of the best prospect goalies coming up the ranks right now. We can't forget that. But holy crap, that would be a lot of bad luck happening to the Red Wings all at once for that to happen. But I do, like you said, Zach, even if it's just a couple games and we're expecting him to come play, 1B next year, if anything, if he has a great season in the AHL, you need to get a little bit of experience. Preseason's one thing, but playing real games is a whole different world. So I would hope to see a little bit of engagement, but obviously might still just be, like you said, Grand Rapids wants to keep them there. Red Wings are maybe seeing a downturn in their season, and it wouldn't even help if they did bring them up, if we did have 3 injured goalies. So if that's the case, then, well, I think you might be right. We're getting a top 10 pick at that point.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong, honestly, with that take. I really do. I want us to be in that 3rd spot for the playoffs in our own division, right? So it's kind of funny how we're both kind of like, well, I hope we're both wrong with some of these takes, but I hope that we're right on some of these as well. But
there's good and bad, but you just got to take which one you want to have hurt you the worst. I don't know.
Why don't you go ahead and go into your final take? I'll go into mine, and then we'll finish off with Carlos' take. I'll try my best to defend his take.
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that one, but yeah, my last take. Brinkett bounces back this year. He's all used to the Red Wings. He got his 1 year under his belt. Got that collaboration with everybody now. 40-plus goal season coming up for us, boys. We're replacing all those points we lost by getting rid of Wallman, Gosper, who went to Winnipeg. Yeah, thank you. I was like, who went to the Jets? I'm like, oh, yeah, Sprawn. We're replacing that goal scoring right there with that, man. Half of those are taken care of. He's coming out of his shell this year. He's making that deal worth it. Obviously, 29 goals last season, not bad. But I'm expecting us a lot more from him this year, especially with who they got him surrounded by. Kind of hot take, kind of a little bit more of a lukewarm one, but I feel it's coming this season for him.
I certainly hope so. I think now being in his second season under Derek Lalone and then adding a player like Vladimir Tarasenko, you have Patrick Kane for a full season. It actually opens up more for him, I believe. I didn't write this down as a take, but I guess I can say it. I don't think Alex DeBrincat stays on the top line this whole entire season. I think he actually gets bumped down. I was speaking with a friend yesterday, actually, George, and we both actually agreed that there is very much ample opportunity for someone like Vladimir Tarasenko to take that top left wing spot to play with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. So regardless of where Alex DeBrincat is, a 40-goal bounce back season, I believe, is doable. You just got to make sure that you're more precise on your 1Ts for us, Alex DeBrincat. You got the wrister down pat, but I think being in his second season, being more familiar with the players, the coaching staff, and the system, that this could give him the opportunity to put more pucks in the net. Maybe he gets a little bit under 40, but I would still be happy with anything 35 and up. So I think that was a really great take, Derek. But yeah, I guess my just a little filler intake is that, yeah, Vladimir Tarasenko gets majority of top line duties this upcoming season. He essentially is the David Perron replacement who can put up more goal production than David Perron. I think a lot of people tend to forget his time in St. Louis and how much of a difference maker that he was. He's almost essentially an OV light. He's got that Russian factor where he's got the sniping capabilities, right? Where he can 1T it from the OV office, essentially, as we'd like to call it, right? And he's also got a really big frame. He's like 220 pounds. It's really hard to get off the puck. He's got that OV body where it's like, dude's got a dad bod, but like you touch him, you're falling backwards. I think Vladimir Tarasenko would do very well on the top line for this Detroit Red Wings team, especially with Dylan Larkin, who plays more of a two-way game. Lucas Raymond plays a two-way game too. His goal scoring is coming out a little bit more. And I would love for Vladimir Tarasenko to share his mindset, much like how Patrick Kane did, just pretty much helped evolve Lucas Raymond. I think adding in a Vladimir Tarasenko into that only improves someone like Lucas Raymond and figuring out different ways on how to score. Your overall thoughts real quick on that, Derek?
I just hope if we got put Tarasenko on the first line, I'm just hoping that Florida, being the stack team they were, just underutilized the crap out of him on the third line. Obviously, I just want to get, obviously we know he's probably going to start on the second line opening night, and I just want to get some time to see how he actually produces, how he skates, and how he actually performs out there in like the full time before I feel comfortable, because it's been a minute since that boy's been on a first line, that's for sure. But could he still have the capabilities? Quite possibly. Everything Zach said is true. He's a big boy who can shoot the puck. He doesn't get bounced off. So you could really see him slotting in different positions if he comes as packaged, I guess.
Now, this will actually be my true last hot take real quick before we go into Carlos. I believe that Steve Yzerman will make an impact trade before the trade deadline. And when I say impact trade, not a super blockbuster deal, but I think we actually acquire a decent named player. I don't know if that's going to be on offense. I don't know if that's going to be on defense, but if I had to make a pick, it would most likely be on defense, because it goes back to what I said. I feel like Simon Edvinsson will make that jump to be paired with Moritz Seider majority of the time this season, and the Red Wings are going to look at their bottom four defensemen and are going to say, well, we got to do something here quick because these two bottom pairings, they're getting obliterated night in and night out, and that could be the main reason why the Red Wings start going on a losing skid. And so I can see a situation where Steve Yzerman is forced on his hand to keep the season alive. You have to go out and get a legit top 4 defenseman. But I could see the argument for a forward too. You know, you look at someone like, I don't know, you just look at the overall depth on center, and you look at some of the bottom wings. I don't believe Berggren is suited for a bottom 4 situation, but we don't have the room for the top 6 for him. So Derek, do you think that there is an opportunity for Steve Yzerman to make an impact trade before the trade deadline? And when I say before the trade deadline, I'm not saying a couple weeks before the trade deadline cutoff date. I'm saying like maybe December or even January. Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, I feel like the Wings are very well off in stock right now to be able to make any kind of moves that they really would like to, depending on what the other teams need. We have surplus of goalies, surplus of prospects. We have picks. We have anything we need to make a movement happen. And depending on how the first couple months pan out, you can definitely see a trade need to be happening. I mean, we just are overstocked as it is. So something needs to kind of move, because I'd rather the team still not run with 3 goalies again. But what are we going to do right now? It's kind of turning out to be looking that way. But like you said, it could possibly happen. There could be a trade in the works. There could be something that we need to do down the line, and Steve sees it coming, and that's why he's holding on right now. So it could already be the process of something happening, which is nice to see. Hopefully the team itself doesn't really need the boost, but obviously we already know we kind of do. And I would imagine that, like you said, is probably more so going to be on the defensive end, because that's probably where we're struggling the most. So I can see it happening, especially that early, because you're going to have a pretty good look at what the team's going to be at by that point in the season, especially December, January, halfway through the season already. And if we're well below 500, and you can see the reason why, well, time to make a move then.
Yeah, you definitely at some point. I mean, you made a really good point. You talked about the prospects a little bit. Yeah, our cupboard of prospects is huge, right? I mean, we don't really have too many standout like blue chip prospects, right? The last one you could easily say would be Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, and Simon Edmondson. I definitely would not put Marco Casper, Nate Danielson, Carter Mazer, or even MBN in those categories. And that's not what I'm saying that Steve Yzerman's going to go out and get as a blue chip prospect. But like I mentioned, and it goes back to my take, if the Red Wings get hit with the injury bug very quickly, right, to savor the season, I very well could see Steve Yzerman going out and getting that difference maker to help out with the defensive side. Once again, I believe it's going to be on the defensive end if this does happen. And we've seen it time and time again where there are teams where they have players on their team where there could be a situation where we can maybe use, let's just use Toronto as an example, right? They got 2 players, same position on defense. Let's just say it's on the left-handed side. Both could play top 4 pairings, right? But they're log jammed. Then there's that one really young player or maybe an older player who's unhappy with his playing time, thus meaning that the Red Wings have an opportunity to go in, make that trade, thus giving that team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the opportunity to push that one player up that they had that wasn't getting utilized enough. And then they finally have a player in return to fill in that third pair spot on their end. So technically a win-win for both teams. So that's where I'm going along with this. And we've seen that happen before in the NHL where teams have these 2 really good players and they have to make a decision really quick. Right. So that was my reason for it. So I just really hope that we don't have to come down to these. But once again, these are our hot takes. And so without further ado, we're going to use Carlos' hot take, which is
have fun with it.
Christian Fischer will be the most surprising Red Wing player this year. And I had to ask him to go in context a little bit for me. So he says the obvious is that he's the glue guy, but he's the glue guy that's found a home with the Detroit Red Wings. It's his second year, more comfortable, more familiar, more gritty. and then goes on saying, I think he will be the most Detroit-esque Red Wing this year. So thank you, Carlo, for making that take and then going in depth a little bit for me. So I'm going to try and defend this as best as possible. Yeah, I agree with him overall that I do see Christian Fischer coming out of his shell a little bit more. I know for a fact, and we've seen this, a lot of the players on the team actually came out. They absolutely love Christian Fischer. The upper management, the coaching staff, everyone loves Fish. Great player to have on your team. I think that's a guy who would actually go on the front lines and take bullets for his brothers and his teammates. And I would love to see Christian Fischer get in there and be more of a facilitator role or not goon, but enforcer role out there, because he's going to be playing a shutdown role, right? He's going to be on the PK. He's going to be playing third line, maybe sometimes fourth line, getting anywhere from maybe like 10 to 15 minutes a night, depending on the situations, obviously. But once again, I agree with Carlo that he could be the guy who has the biggest, not impact, but uprise season on this team, where he quote unquote explodes, just outplays what we're used to seeing him. And that's not saying that he's going to get 60 points, but I think what he does on the ice is going to have such an impact for this team that he's going to be essentially one of the team's main MVPs this season. Is that something you would agree with, Derek?
I mean, I'm going to say it's just all that time he spent in Rome on that boat after those interviews that he did. He got a lot of relaxation. He got his little bag there with the Red Wings New Deal. He's all relaxed, comfortable. He's played with the team before. I feel like everything you said, pretty true. Everyone loves him. He loves the team. He loves the area. He just wants to be here. He wants to produce here. I feel like all those things coming together in his second year are just going to provide the team with something that they didn't have from him last year. Whether it's just in that grit factor, that production factor, and points here and there, maybe 30, 40 points this season, which would be impressive for a third to fourth liner for his caliber, I wouldn't be upset. Or if we're just getting that enforcer out there that pretty much knocks everybody down, kicks everybody in the ass just because they're trying to touch their best player, I'm cool with that too, because that's what the Red Wings also need. So I can see a lot of things coming from Christian Fischer this year. I like his little hot take there.
Yeah. No, good one, Carlo. That was a really good one. Wish you were here, but we know you're on baby duty. So congratulations actually to Carlo on his new baby girl. So can't wait to meet her. We're gonna have to get her a Hockey Town rundown onesie, Derek, somehow, some way.
I'm about to say, like, we don't have that on the website yet.
No, well, I'll work it out somehow, some way. And that's it for our hot takes. Take a second. We would love to hear from you guys, the viewers, watchers, listeners, fans. Leave it down in the comments what your hot take predictions are for this upcoming season. Also, let us know if you agree or disagree with us. We love the banter with you guys. We do this mainly not only for ourselves, but for you guys as well. So please come join us, fill in the banter with us, and let us know your thoughts and opinions on what could happen this upcoming season for the Detroit Red Wings. So Derek, with that, let's go ahead and jump into the minimal around the league news, finishing up this episode. This one, honestly, Derek, I really like this one. I really do. I think this is really cool. And it just goes to show you how much the game of hockey is growing around the world, because Kenya ice hockey have been named to the IIHF. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Your overall thoughts on that, Derek?
I mean, hockey's expanding. It's nice. It's getting to places in the world that you thought it'd never get to. I mean, hell, did you watch the video of them getting the news that they got accepted in? That was pretty heartwarming. That was nice. Yeah. They were excessively happy. And it's like, yeah, get hockey to everybody. Make it accessible. I know it's probably one of the most expensive sports in the world because, Jesus Christ, a stick costs $250 alone. But, man, I'm just happy to see people still playing it. So it's great to see it's expanding.
Yeah, no, it was very heartwarming. So definitely loved putting that in this episode and the Around the League news. So congratulations to Kenya for making that jump to the IIHF. Yeah, claps for them. Claps for them. No claps for the LA Kings because they lost to me personally, their top defenseman, Drew Doughty, who is month to month with a bad leg injury. Did you see what happened to him, Derek, by chance?
Not at all. I just saw that he was out month to month, and I was like, ooh, poor LA. They are in the struggle bus right now.
So he was, I can't remember who it was against, but it was a former teammate of his that used to play on LA. They were along the boards. I'm trying to explain it the best way possible in my brain, just imagining how it looked. He almost kind of did the splits, but then like his foot got stuck in the corner of like the bottom of the board almost, it seemed like, and like just the way it all twisted and folded. Oh, I could feel it. It was not pretty. So I do feel bad for him. Obviously, this is a really good defenseman who has been plagued with the injury bug throughout his career, especially as of late after winning so many cups with the Kings. It's just very unfortunate to see. So hopefully a speedy recovery for him, and no one's going to be drafting him in fantasy hockey anytime soon, probably. So that really sucks because he was a point getter for sure. So got any takes on that real quick?
Say that's gonna be a sleeper pick in about 4 months when he's back. So be ready for everyone to snag Drew Doughty right when he's healthy.
Wish him a speedy recovery. That does suck to see players get injured, especially in preseason. Do you think that this is something that maybe they should slow down on? Do you think like regular NHLers should not be playing in preseason games to prevent injuries like these?
I mean, there's a certain number of players I can see where they really don't need to be playing in these preseason games. Obviously, it's basically just that get you up and running for the actual season. So you kind of need the little bit of get up there. It helps you, keeps you not cold. But man, I just feel like all the preseason goes on too long. The postseason goes on too long. There's a lot of hockey. I mean, I love hockey. I am not upset with getting more of it. But these guys' bodies they're human. They're breaking. Older they get. We already saw William Nylander take a face plant into someone's leg because Austin Matthews gave him a little nudge there. I get no idea how he fell and got injured that quick, but
did you? I think I showed it to you last night when we were out eating dinner. While we were supposed to be at the game that got postponed. Thanks a lot, Pittsburgh Penguins. I am mad at you guys for not fixing your plane, but you saw that video of Line getting hit, and then Arbor, I always say his last name wrong, so I'm going to say Wi-Fi, pummel the player who hit Line. Is that going a little too far?
That was the most excessive thing I've seen in the whole preseason. It was a love tap. No one even like fell or moved slightly, but holy shit, that man just came out and started beating the crap out of whoever hit Liney. I'm like, buddy, like I get you want to have some grit and show that you can compete out there, but that's not the way to do it. What are you doing?
I will give him the benefit of the doubt because Line is new to that team, literally traded not even a month ago, maybe a month ago now. His teammates are showing him support, so that's one way to do it, but I would agree with you that it was slightly a little excessive. I think maybe just one punch would have been fine, not 5. So
I don't even know if one punch was relevant for that hit. Like, it wasn't even a hit, it was a bump. And then boom, 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 boom. I'm like,
yeah.
Whoa, buddy. Like, the crime did not fit the punishment there.
One final question before we go into our final thoughts and end this episode, Derek. Would you personally be inclined to shorten the preseason and add more regular season games? Is that something that you would consider, maybe only 3 preseason games and adding 2 more regular season games?
I would be more okay with just getting rid of some preseason games and keeping the regular season at 82. That just gives people more time for training, more time to relax in the middle of summer so their bodies can recuperate. I know as a hockey fan, I want hockey all year round. So I would say extend the preseason and the postseason, have one end in the end of July, then the other starts at the beginning of August. I'm cool with that. But I don't think the NHLers would be. They would hate their lives. So I feel like...
Go ahead.
I would say just for the sake of the players, their bodies, wanting to watch them at their full peak, I would say get rid of some preseason games because we really don't need them, especially, obviously, one that if it gets canceled, just don't reschedule that one. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world. Obviously, I know teams are trying to see what their players can do and who they want to bring up. Like, but most of the time at this point, most teams are set. There might be that one or two surprises, so it's really not that big of a deal. So I'm more so on the line of just get rid of a couple preseason games, keep everything else the same. Hell, even like, well, you can't really keep it or the postseason to 6 games, can you? Because then it's just going to be weird. I'm just thinking too much for the players. I want more hockey, so I'll just keep it to the point where I'm saying we can keep a couple games out of the preseason, keep a little guys healthier, a little less destroyed for the regular season, and I think that's all we really need to do at this point. No more preseason games.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do like 1 or 2, I think that's fine. Just extend training camp at that point, right? I think you could do just as fine in training camp as you would in preseason, right? Just hold players for a little bit longer, extend that, right? And just build 2 teams out of, what you have on the current roster and then in your farm system, right? Just do that. So yeah, I pretty much agree with you there. So nice. That was awesome. All right, buddy. That wraps up today's episode. Why don't you go ahead and dip your toes into your final thoughts? Speak from your mind.
Oh, God, I wanted to watch Red Wings so bad yesterday, and I didn't
Me
get
too.
to, so I'm very depressed. But whatever, we'll go into that because we get to watch 2 games tomorrow now and football. So let's go all Detroit sports. We're going to have a good day. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Pistons, but, the Pistons are on their own boat right now. Go Tigers. We got clinched our spot, so Good job, boys. Got the playoffs. Next up is going to be the Lions and then maybe the Red Wings. Well, no, it's hoping the Red Wings. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Hopefully this rest of the season just goes well. Hopefully we get some good showing this coming week. Again, 2 games tomorrow. Let's all enjoy it. Let's have a good Monday. I won't be able to watch it till obviously 11 o'clock at night. So maybe I'll be up till like 5 in the morning watching back-to-back hockey games. I don't know.
Everyone send Derek spoiler alerts. So that way he's not surprised when he goes and watches the games. So those are your final thoughts. Sorry, I kind of cut into yours before you said
the final thoughts. Yeah, I'm half alive right now anyways.
All right, for sure. Well, my final thoughts are thanks for stopping by. Once again, if you are returning, if you are new, thanks for stopping by. If you made it towards the end of this episode, I'll be very surprised if you did. But if you did, why don't you go ahead and let me know down in the comments. But while you're here, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you're new or returning, hit the thumbs up. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and hit that follow button and rate us 5 stars. Derek, all those things are free. Who would have known? Nothing. Cost you nothing. And we really do appreciate you guys doing all those. But yeah, let's get this video over 30 likes. You guys are doing a really good job at that. My final thoughts are let's go Red Wings. Let's go Tigers. Let's go Lions. Pistons. I think y'all just still need to figure it out. I really don't know, but we'll get there eventually. Detroit sports are back, Derek. It's a fantastic time to be alive now. We're finally out of the dark, doomy days of Detroit sports, how we were like 6 years ago. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. And Derek, with that being said, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya.
Bye, y'all.